welcome to the channel. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Join me on today's video where we will be looking at a SteelDive. It's not a brand new release or anything, it's been out for a good while. I've just gotten around to reviewing it. So let's go ahead and have a look in the box. So this is the SteelDive SD1965. This is of course a homage to the Oris 6.5 diver. And SteelDive have had this out for a good while, but it was available on these cheap and nasty looking SteelDive straps. Now it has been a while since I've featured anything decent from SteelDive on this channel. That's because I've felt as of late they've not really produced anything which has really caught my eye. If anything, they've just been bringing out a lot of watch cases effectively, and with no bracelet, it's really been a put off. But since I made the video a few weeks back, let's say, when I said they are going to pull out bracelets, so I have ordered 2 watches, I think 3, that I'll be looking at with the bracelet to see how it looks. I mean, you'll agree, this watch has been out, it hasn't really caught my eye, but on the bracelet it just looks so much better. So now I think it's worth getting it in for a review. So on wrist today, I'm wearing a Seiko chronograph perpetual calendar. Yes, the dial looks complicated as hell, but very easy. And you know what, for a quartz watch, it's got so many complications that'll just literally blow you away. Fantastic watch. There is a review on my channel, but you'll have to go back quite a while to see it, so I might link it within this video. So back to the watch in hand. We know how SteelDive boxes are. The only difference is now they have started to include an instruction manual, so they've gotten a bit better with the branding, or just added some more stuff. Standard SteelDive warranty card, which is effectively useless. So let's put the box away. Let's have a good old look at this watch here. So the Oris 6.5 Homage, it isn't a very popular watch to Homage. You don't see many of these watches around there. And I think what comes to mind is from the Chinese side, Proxima definitely have one. Theirs looks quite nice actually, but I believe they're using the 62 mass case, so similar to the Proxima PX01. I think the case is still the same. I would like to see something different. SteelDive, actually, just on first impressions, the case shape looks quite good. I really do like that, and it's got the right vintage cues, no crown guards, very nice profile, and from here at least it looks very good. So let's start off with some specs, dimensions, etc., and let's start off with the price. So this model will set you back with the bracelet for around £130, which is roughly $180. I will link the store in the description in case you guys want to have a look, and as mentioned, the model number is SD1965. Now let's look at the dimensions. So it's a 42mm diameter watch case. You've got 14mm thickness, which is actually really good thickness considering it does have a slightly domed bubble style crystal, and you've got a lug to lug of 50mm, so quite a long watch. Overall weight of the watch with the full bracelet is 178 grams, and the lug width is 20mm. And moving on to specifications, so as you can already tell, it does have a double dome bubble style sapphire crystal, which has loads of air coating on the underside. You've got a full 316L stainless steel case construction, bezel crown, case back, bracelet, etc. The watch has 200 meters of water resistance, and it runs the ever so reliable Seiko Epson NH35 movement, which has a B rate of 6 ticks a second, 21,600 vibrations per hour, and just an overall very reliable movement. So I will say the first impressions are definitely good. It's got good weight, good visual, a decent presence as well, and they've done a good job homaging the Oris 6.5. Now let's take a closer look. What do we have here? Looking at the dial, you do have a very black dial. It's a glossy finish, which is a change from the usual grey black matte effect dials that you see. So pure black, and you've got printing and applied hour markers. So under the 12, as per usual, you got the SteelDive logo. Above the 6, you got automatic 200 meters. Very simple. I don't mind the logo too much. I know there's mixed feelings about the logo. And then applied markers all around the dial. You got a mixture of batons at the 3, 6, and 9. Under the 12, you got this tapered sort of double marker, and then you've got circular markers in between those. Polished lips around all the hour markers, and then you've got these candlestick style hands and a lollipop second hand. So far so good. Very simple yet very effective. Legibility is great. You can see that, no problem. You also got a printed chapter ring around the dial. Now with the use of this bubble style, domed sapphire crystal, the actual minute track looks a lot longer than it actually is, which is a nice touch. I do like the distortion on some watches on the edges of these crystals, because like I said, just adds a bit of extra length, gives it just a slightly different visual. What I don't like about the sapphire crystal, and I think a lot of people will feel the same way, is that there is just too much AR coating to the point where it really does get in the way. It's a jet black dial, and it is nice to see that clarity and just how dark that dial is. But the AR coating will definitely get in the way of that. So the detail is present, the finishing is also present. SteelDive do have good finishing, good detail. I think where they lack is just in function of the watch, and just really having great quality control. Now, if you'll also notice that there is actually no date function on here, I did go for this dateless version. I prefer it. I like the dial symmetry. I think as I've started to advance or go on into the watch hobby, I do prefer minimalist dials. I'm not actually overly fussed if there's a date window. I actually really don't like date windows, although a few of my Seiko divers do have date windows. I think it just takes up too much of the dial space. So I do like the fact that it's just a very plain dial, great legibility, good dial symmetry. So far so good. Bezel insert, ceramic bezel insert. You've got a 120 click unidirectional dive bezel, and you've got markers 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And of course, again, it's the RS65 inspired ceramic bezel insert. I like it. I do like SteelDive's bezel inserts. They are fully loomed a lot of the time. There's no protruding pips, so there is a decent quality on the actual bezel inserts. Now let's look at the bezel. Let's look at the grip around it. Decent grip, good finishing. It is a bit thin, so I wonder how that is going to be like on the actual rotation. Let's go ahead and check it out. So the rotation isn't actually bad. It isn't too tight, isn't too loose. However, it does sound quite loose. Now the sound will be down to, I think, just the fact that the material is so thin and the bezel is so thin. It does line up pretty much spot on, but there is a touch bit of play in the bezel, so it does come across somewhat loose, and it does have those funny sounds as you go around, so it sounds a bit tinny and a touch hollow. So the bezel rotation isn't the best, but it's accurate, it works. So I think, to be honest with you, you can live with this. So with regards to loom, you've got full BGW9 application, so on the ceramic bezel insert, as well as the dial and the hands. So far so good. I think it's a very, very decent level of loom. You can see on the actual hour markers, look at the 12, it just looks a bit patchy there. It's not as solid as you'd probably like. Yeah, so if you look at the 12 o'clock marker and the 369, there is a slight bit of patchiness. I don't think there's many layers applied. Longevity, I don't expect it to last very long at all. But it's a lot better than, for example, Pagani design. It is visible, but again, just on the longevity side, I wouldn't really get my hopes up. So it's a decent to average attempt by SteelDive. They have done a lot better in the past, bear that in mind. So let's have a look at the case. I was admiring the case at the start of the video, and the brushing on the side of the case, linear brushing, very, very fine, as you can tell. Just look how fine that brushing is. Down to the lugs, linear brushing, again, very, very fine quality. A good job on the case, I will say. Again, very fine. So no crown guards. You've got a crown with the SteelDive signage. That's not bad actually. That's a very nice looking case. And you've got the case back with that SteelDive logo, automatic movement, etc, etc. Case back is brushed also, so fully brushed case. I like it. I will say it looks good in hand, absolutely. Good curve. I really do like the curve on the lugs. That's a very nice shape. very smooth. There's no edginess to it at all as well. It's a shame that they were producing this watch with this rubber straps for such a long time. They really should have started making bracelets a long time ago, and I think this watch would be a lot more popular. So let's have a look at the bracelet. So solid end links, solid links. It does feel a touch light, a touch rattly. You know, the quality isn't really there. It's not the best bracelet that we've seen. You've got split pins that hold the links together. You've got 4 links on one side, 4 on the other. You do have a stamped clasp, so they still don't want to give us milled clasp on these watches. And then you've got this signed clasp as well. They never used to have them signed. I don't know what made them sign it. To be honest, I'm not too much of a fan of, you know, overly signing a watch. Yeah, I don't like it on these level of watches, to be honest. Or rather, they be sterile. But however, they have started branding all their clasps now. But a milled clasp is a couple of quid from AliExpress, so be sure to add one of those to your basket. It's a very easy upgrade. But there is a problem. Okay, so with the end links, they are male links. However, there is a slight QC issue, more than a slight one, I will say. So you can see here that this bracelet, this link here, articulates fully, no issue. But here, the bracelet doesn't want to come down. The link is stuck. Now, I did have a look earlier, and that's because this end link hasn't been finished correctly. Just below this, it's quite square. It hasn't been rounded off, whereas the one on this side, it has been rounded off. So that's why it allows it to turn. Let's see if you guys can see that a little bit better. So you see here, the end link is allowing for free movement of the second link, but here it hasn't been finished, so it's just a bit square and it doesn't allow that link to fold over. So let's see how that affects the watch when you put it on wrist. But yeah, a bit of a shame, poor QC from SteelDive, and they are known for the QC issues, although they have, in my experience, you know, clamped down on quite a lot of those repeat issues that they're having with certain watches. So let's put this on wrist. And that looks good. Completely honest with you guys, 50mm lug to lug isn't that much of an issue. I've got a 6.5-inch wrist, and just having a look at that, I think I really do like the case shape. That has grown on me quite a bit. I like the bezel. I like the curve of the crystal, how it's causing this, you know, distortion around the chapter ring. I like the simplicity of the dial as well. So it is a nice looking watch. Like I said, the bracelet, it's, you know, decent, but that stiff link hasn't really caused an issue at all as well. Will it cause an issue on smaller wrists? I doubt it, maybe, but on bigger wrists, definitely not. So let's summarize on the watch. What I think, £130, not a bad price, you know, still budget category. So what is this competing with? Effectively, I think for not a lot more money, let's say another 20 or 30 pounds, it's competing with like San Martin Sumo Homage, the San Martin Sub at £150. It's also competing at current price with the rectangular 6105 8000 Homage. Philida is a very good competitor to this watch now. Sorry, to SteelDive. Philida watches, the ones I've had, very solid and very well built, if you can get past the Philida name. With this watch, what have they done? You know, they have skimped out. I believe SteelDive has slowly been reducing the quality. That's because they do price themselves too low. So now they maybe are finding ways to obviously reduce on quality. That's the first thing businesses do to sort of get some of that profit in there. So what you do have is Subpar Loom. To be honest, their loom was always very good. And then you've got a Subpar bezel rotation. Having said that, I know people personally who do have this watch, and you know, they're happy with it. So the next point, you know, can you live with it? Can you be happy with this watch? Overall, yes, you can. Like I said, the loom and the bezel, you know, people are happier with a lot poorer performance, let's say. Other than that, you know, they've done quite well with this. If you are interested, check out the link within the description. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you on the next video.